The training hall was open to any user, and most users visited to experiment with newly acquired skills. It is nearly impossible to find someone like Weed, who would go straight to the training hall as soon as he created a new avatar. Newcomers are more interested in learning more about the kingdom and city. Popular belief also deemed the training hall ineffective for training. When the instructor saw Weed walk through the entrance, he looked over intensely. "Young adventurer, I presume you arrived at the Versailles continent very recently," the instructor said. "Yes, sir," Weed said shortly. He was still upset he made a fool of himself on the first day. "Soon, you will find sword training necessary when confronting monsters. I'll give you some advice. Take any unattended training dummy and strike it in any way you want. There's a wooden sword in front of a training dummy, and it's all yours." "Thank you, sir. That's more than enough. I don't need any more guidance." Godspeed. Weed grabbed the wooden sword and approached a training dummy at the corner. He began striking it with the sword once, twice, thrice. His hands were gradually getting accustomed to the weight of the wooden sword and the sense of hitting the training dummy. In Royal Road, a new character's level is locked for the first 4 weeks. Players are forbidden from traveling beyond the city's gate and hunting monsters. During this time, most people did as many quests as possible, building up favorable public service points, earning money, and forming a network of personal contacts. Nonetheless, Weed silently, relentlessly struck the training dummy with his wooden sword. The training hall had about 1,000 training dummies and an unlimited supply of wooden swords on the walls, which could be helpful. The hall was busy and often frequented by users who wanted to test their skills. At that moment, however, everyone was watching someone in particular. "This guy's got grit. That's one tough dude. Can't believe any sane man's willing to go so far." Weed was covered in sweat. The white shirt and pants issued to him had absorbed all his sweat and clung to his body. He hit the training dummy over and over without a single break. Strength increased by 1 point. After 6 hours of striking the dummy, Weed heard a system notification ding. He felt the wooden sword in his hands get lighter. "Open status," Weed mumbled while still striking. Weed's avatar was so feeble that there was nothing remarkable. 5 hours later, vitality increased by 1 point. Agility increased by 1 point. The two stats rose almost at the same time. Phew! Weed finally put down the wooden sword and took a short break. He had been hitting the training dummy for nearly 8 hours straight without eating or drinking. He was physically exhausted and worse. His throat was parched, and his stomach felt hollow. Open inventory. After saying the preset keyword, semi-transparent images of all the items in Weed's inventory floated before his eyes. Inside his inventory was a canteen and 10 pieces of rye bread. That was all. In Royal Road, everything had to be done personally. Other players made money by carrying out easy quests for the first 4 weeks, but Weed didn't have the time to spare. Weed took out his canteen and a piece of rye bread and bit into it. As he ate, his hunger levels dropped and he felt satiated. "I'm supposed to have a meal every 5 hours. I'd have to eat even more often depending on my level of activity. Still, I don't need to fill my hunger bar fully. All I need to do is stay away from death." Weed finished his meal swiftly. He picked up the wooden sword and went back to the training dummy. He's back at it again. He's nuts. I think he holds a grudge against it or something. I don't think he'll stop until he destroys it. Was it an illusion, or did that training dummy shiver at that very moment? Weed's wooden sword struck at the training dummy over and over. The same questions arose among all the spectators. Why the heck is that guy striking the training dummy? I don't think it'll help at all. If he wanted to raise skill level, it'd be much better to go out on the field and use it on a rabbit than on the training dummy here. Look at what he's doing. He's not using a skill. It simply looks like he's beating up the training dummy for no reason. Maybe he's leveling up his stats, a knight in dazzling armor commented, immediately drawing the attention of everyone around. To be continued.